So I just want to introduce you to the people who might be listening. This is G. Gar here, who, when we met, was an award-winning market access specialist working in the pharmaceutical industry, and was leaving that corporate career to create more space for her passion, which is holistic health. You felt that that was where you wanted to go, where your life was taking you. And you were in that process between the stories. A lot of people come to this work when they're in the space between stories. And we did some work together, and now you're in you have a different way of being, and you've reconfigured things, and you're bringing a different energy to things. And the things look different too. I don't want to say too much because I want to hear it in your words. So over to you, G. Can you please tell us a little bit about where you were when we met?
Thank you, Amina. Yeah, when I met you, actually, it was something that you'd written about toxic environments, work environments, that really just stood out. It called to me. And at that time, I think I just put my profile on LinkedIn, and that's how I got your information. So that's October, November time, I think. And so, yes, I was in between worlds, and I've been in between worlds for a number of years, kind of like wearing two hats. One, the holistic health side of stuff, and kind of like a nutritionist from many years, a naturopath, studied traditional Chinese medicine, all of these kind of ancient methodologies and modalities that have really, I've been curious about. And then on the other side is the scientific hat, and the pharmaceutical industry and the corporate environment, where it's all target driven, and, you know, where I suppose programmed to be a certain way. So there was this real calling between the heart and the mind. Where's the passion? And I think my passion had really deflated over the years in the pharmaceutical industry, and I was ready for change. And there's also personal change going on, so it was a mixture of stuff, really. And I think inside myself, I was just looking for someone, a mentor, a soundboard that would understand both worlds and help me have the courage to choose to follow that passion.
And I know there were other things going on in your life at the time, so there were big changes all happening at once, and it felt to me like there was an end of a creative cycle and the beginning of a new one. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
No, there was no creativity in my life, and that's what I was lacking. It just became very robotic. I felt like a robot. And it's the creativity that I was yearning for. And I know that the creativity side of stuff came from, you know, the holistic side of my life, when I was in the garden, or when I was doing, you know, providing yoga or therapies or solutions to people, to help people. And so that's what I was yearning for. And that was probably about 10 or 20% of my, you know, lifestyle, compared to the 80% that was still stuck on that hamster wheel, which I'm trying so desperately to get out of. So Right.
And so what is it that you felt was holding you back, or was something that you felt you needed some help with?
I think it was fear of the unknown, or fear of failure. Because again, in the corporate environment, we're programmed to be, you know, it's all about success, it's all about goal setting, it's all about this. And I'd been doing that over the couple of years, saying, right, holistic health, this is it. And it'd been very kind of like meticulous with targets, right, I'm going to do this. None of it worked. Because obviously that formula wasn't working.
Right.
And it was, I don't know how to explain it, but it was actually doing something completely different.
So I think, what I'm hearing is that you were trying to solve the problem logically.
And that wasn't working.
And it wasn't working on the fears that are not logical at all.
Yeah. And obviously there are, you know, financial pressures as well, just
Mm.
everyday kind of life pressures. Um, but personally, I'm in a place where my daughter's moved on. She's at university doing her own thing. And I've now got the space and the time to say, well, okay, what do I want?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. So you had more space, so you had more energy, more time to focus on your vision or what you wanted to bring into the world. Um, and you were kind of at the cusp, I think. That was the feeling I got. You were at the cusp, but something was just, you just needed something, or at least to explore some of the fears so you can let them go and release them.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe you can share how the process was for you. What happened? What did you feel was helped the thing to the fears to be released so you can move forward?
I remember, Amina, because I came with this plan in my head, like a business plan, thinking, right, this is what I need. And actually, it was completely the opposite. But the great thing was for me, that you helped, in a very gentle way to uh, allow that to unfold naturally.
Mhm.
Just met me where I was, because there was a lot of this thinking and feeling. And it was actually that emotional element that I wasn't prepared to enter that actually consumed a lot of the time and also required time,
Mm.
because it wasn't, you can't time emotions, it just needs space, right?
Mm.
And you really honored that.
Mm. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And was there a particular moment or an insight that really, in that process of, or in that space that we created, was there a moment that you remember or an insight that helped to shift things?
The first one I remember is the piece for the warriors, because that was a language that I understood, and so it's the peaceful warrior, and what was the other one?
The
The
healer.
healer and the warrior.
Mm.
I think that was it. I think I wrote it in my notes anyway. The healer.
Yeah, yeah. Contrasting the warrior and
Yeah,
allowing the healer a bit more space.
yeah, absolutely. And so that was something that really resonated with me, and I understood that I was always in this, survival warrior zone. And actually, life didn't need to be that way. We can enter the healer space, even when we're helping others or coaching others. So that was the first insight. But I think the most memorable one, more recently, has been the most recent conversation we had.
Mm-hmm.
Was the end of the coaching session,
Yeah.
and that I don't want to go into too much detail because it was quite personal, but that was really powerful.
Yeah.
Changing a situation around through a simple conversation.
Mm.
That was wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. We use the questions, the transformational process where we dug into the assumptions that you were holding.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it was painful and
Mm.
very insightful, it was like, wow,
Mm.
okay.
Mm. Mm.
It's a reflection, it's a mirror. And I'm like, okay, so how do we actually deal with this in a more kindful, heartfelt approach,
Mm.
rather
Mm.
than that warrior again?
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we can offer others, right? We can offer them space to go into those painful spaces that we spend a lot of time and energy and years skirting around. Um, but that can be looked at the right time in with intensity, shining a light on it,
Yes.
where with precision,
Especially
to release it.
their repetitive patterns, and that's
Mm.
one thing that I'm very aware of.
Mm.
When repetitive patterns, they keep repeating themselves in different dramas or different situations, and for me it's like, well, why am I getting this message again? What is
Mm.
it that I'm not seeing, or how is it that I'm not evolving from this roundabout, and how do I get off of this roundabout so that I can experience a different reality?
Mm.
And so, yeah.
And so coaching is quite difficult, especially transformational coaching. All these modalities can be quite difficult to explain for people to get. So I wonder if you can give a concrete example of a pattern maybe that's shifted, that you've developed awareness around, and so it doesn't have as much power on you, and things have shifted maybe in a practical way.
Yeah, I suppose the biggest one is being hard on myself to deliver on targets on a timely way, where I always keep on taking on more, so the load is constantly building up. Yet I'm driven, and it's a self-imposed thing, right, where I'm driven to hit those targets and get a job done in a particular time, or not wanting to say no to someone.
Yeah, because we hold these assumptions about how I must do it, I must be responsible, if I don't do it, nobody can do it, and so on and so forth.
That's it.
And then we question them, and then suddenly the truth, or the deeper truth, or an alternative version of the truth comes up, and that creates a whole new set of possibilities in terms of patterns of thinking, patterns of behavior, and therefore concrete outcomes, right? So you did all this work, we did all this work. And it doesn't have to take long, right?
No.
We worked together for 3 months, I think.
Yes, yeah. But it was profound. And also, I think, although it was 3 months, it's the way that you were approached the whole, you really met me where I was. And I think that was very important for me as a person, because I couldn't be rushed. And so you allowed that time, even if it wasn't like a fortnightly, because we first said every fortnight, and actually the fortnight wasn't working. So I found that very, very helpful, that I didn't feel rushed, and I had that space. Like summer, for example, I just disappeared. I just switched off because I needed that time. And then revisited, in a new space. And I felt completely different. And I remember the twisting, because I'd gone away, and just intuitively, I was doing a lot of spiral stabilization and twisting movement. And the final conversation I came to you with actually had that element of twisting in the story. And I was just like correlating all that. I was like, wow, it's just the body knows.
Yeah, that's great, because it's an integration of awareness. Your mind and your body are working together, rather than your mind going at 100 miles an hour up here, while your body's kind of tensing and stressing and kind of like slow down, but the mind isn't hearing anything. But as your mind shifts, your body shifts, and vice versa, and it's one integrated experience. I really enjoyed that session too. So thank you for doing that, and also for sharing. So what do things look like now, that as a whole, and maybe highlight things that are maybe different to what they were before? And they're in terms of the pace of things, or how things feel?
Very different. Happy
Yes.
to say.
In a good way.
In a good way, yes. So I did get off the conveyor belt. So it was, adversity in my personal life that actually, I think, pushed me, along with the support I was getting from you. So it was a two-way thing. It was extremes again, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But I managed to get off that conveyor belt. And in that time, so it was a 9-month period this year, so starting from January. So I suppose the first half of the year, it was a case of, I just went into a space of, right, I need this 6 months. I need these 6 months because I'm looking after someone that's very sick at the moment, number one. But number two, it gives me the time to just process how I'm feeling.
You mean you took some time off for yourself? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Rather than jumping straight back into a consulting role or a job.
Absolutely. So 6 months I had completely to myself, and studied a lot. So I went back into the feng shui, and and did quite a lot of studying around that, because that's one thing that I felt nourished me. And come mid-year, after I'd won the National Market Access Award last October, actually 2 people from there contacted me in summer and asked if I wanted a job. And one of them I said no to immediately because it was back in the pharmaceutical industry, and I knew.
You were very clear by then. It's
very clear that that's something I don't want to go back into. But the second role was actually created around what I desired. So it's this conjugate between both, the NHS and pharmaceuticals, and we provide solutions and services in a field that I'm passionate about, which is life sciences. And so, and it's part-time. So I still have the hours for my passion, as well as integrating my passion into the work that I'm providing as a senior consultant. So it's actually bridging both worlds in a very holistic, healing way. And I can just be myself, which is great. It's really, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's trusting that master plan and knowing that there is a solution. And not forcing the jigsaw, right? It was just trusting it and giving it time. Yeah. So that's where I am right now.
Yeah, it sounds more integrated. It sounds holistic, like your original desire for how you want it to be.
Yeah. And I mean, I've met a lot of my old colleagues, and the first thing they say is, God, you look so relaxed and happy. I am.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing what relaxing our mind and our body and not giving in to the myths that drive us into these horrible patterns. Questioning them and stepping back can do for our own well-being. And then also enable us to make a contribution back to the world, but from a very different place.
Yes, from a much healthier space.
Yeah, you're actually bringing more health into the world because you're coming from a healthier place. And that's really beautiful. I really enjoyed seeing that process. So thank you for making me part of it. I know there's a personal side, and we don't want to go too much into it, but I wonder if you might just say how it's going. It's because often what happens is people focus on one area of life, and as things improve and they're more aware in general from working on that area, things slot into place in their personal lives or in their relationships or their health or other things. And it seems like you had some dramatic changes in other areas outside careers as well. And I know you don't want to say too much, so
no, I mean, it's funny because there was I suppose if I'm just scanning backwards, it's the empty nest syndrome, my daughter leaving. So that had a huge emotional, which I wasn't expecting. I was not expecting to feel this void left in the home place, because I've been working on it for two years with my daughter to say, I've got this sussed. I've got plenty of projects to get on with. I won't miss you.
No feelings, me. I don't have feelings.
I was wrong. And I'm meeting so many people that are going through the same process. It's really interesting, this whole empty nest syndrome. But the lovely thing was working with you, being aware of the changes and the emotional nourishment that we also need, and having created the space away from this hamster wheel, right? We actually attract other things like love has come into my life, which is huge.
Well, you had love. You were coming from a place of love, and then you attract
love. But yes, I have time for a relationship, other relationships now, which always used to take the back seat or the back burner in the past, because it was so homed into work taking taking priority or being so pressurized by it, I suppose. But yeah, so that's been
Beautiful. Yeah, wonderful. I can see you glowing. It's really beautiful to witness. So do you want to say maybe a little bit about what you're up to, what you're passionate about, sharing information about the work you're doing, maybe your website if you have one? I know you have one, in fact. Or anything you want to share about your mission, your purpose, what you're bringing into the world that you want other people to know about.
Sure. Well, I'm still in the kind of in-between phase, trying to ascertain what it is that I do.
Yeah. So rephrasing that, just language is very important, because we auto-suggest. I would flip it into there's a part of you that knows there's something, and now you're putting words onto it.
Okay. Well,
And that's it.
Yeah, I feel okay. I suppose I'm always a scientist by profession. But really I'm a Taoist at heart.
Right.
And it's bridging those two. So my passion has always been about creating health and maintaining health. So over the years, that's really evolved into creating harmonious environments that help not only shape an individual's health, but also a family or a community. Because at the end of the day, we need each other's support. So if we can create a holistic, healthy environment to support that process, then we've got a win-win. You know, all the jigsaw pieces are in place. And the modality that I use to create that is the ancient art of feng shui. And so that's what I'm doing as, part-time, but that's my passion. But the lovely thing is I can integrate it into this new role that I have. And
so I'm going to pause you there because I'm noticing you're starting to justify a little bit when you
I don't need to justify. Okay, cool.
You were starting to sort of make it, smaller. But you gave a beautiful description. You're was it a scientist by background but a Taoist at heart?
Yes.
Beautiful phrase. And that illustrates, right? It makes it clear that you have these two sides and you're balancing the scientist but also the intuitive and the heart-based. And that is health. When we remove the assumptions and the narratives that imprison us, then we uncover the health that's already there.
Yes.
And then it can flow into the world to be shared with others. And amazing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed working with you, G. And
thank you, Mina. So bye.
I'm grateful that you're willing to share the experience. Is there anything else you want to share? Any final words or any insights or anything else you want to say?
Oh gosh.
And if not, that's cool too. Maybe something you want to tell others that might be in between stories, or
yes, if you find yourself at crossroads or in that in-between phase, in between zone where you're kind of being pulled by your heartstrings or a passion that is the way for you, and you're still stuck in this old world that is, I don't know, putting your passion out, then I would highly recommend that you work with Amina, because she has the tools to help you process that or transform it. It certainly has for me. Yeah, for sure. So
thank you.